The general truth is these women made a choice to have relationships with these men and talk him down in an attempt to have a nice guy feel sorry for them and swoop in like a white knight, which you never want to be, and rescue their lives. Initially, they will use sex and other positive acts like cooking, cleaning, being good with money, etc., to lure the unsuspecting nice guy into their web, then quickly back this down once they've got him hooked. So oftentimes with nice guys, they haven't had a lot of experience, so all of a sudden they meet this beautiful woman, and she's providing the nice guy with just unbelievable sex out of the gate. She's doing all these nice things for him. She's got a nice child, and it almost looks like a ready-made family for the nice guy. So he's thinking, man, I hit the jackpot. After years of dry spells, I've got my act together now. I've got a good job, and here's this beautiful woman entering my life. Be very cautious. Be very cautious. Unfortunately, a number of these women are only out to get what they can from the unsuspecting nice guy. They only want his resources and security, but their true lust passion, and that's what you want from a woman, is to have her lust for you. It remains with that bad boy who fathered their children. Always remember that, guys. Many nice guys who enter into a committed relationship with these women eventually come to regressive. We're going to go through a story today which is really the extreme. I'm by no means painting this as this is what you can expect every time you enter into a relationship with a single mom. That is not the case. This is really an extreme situation, but it is very entertaining, and it does provide a lot of lessons. It's a long story, so we're going to have to move through it very quickly because I want to keep this video under 30 minutes if I can. This all happened 4 years ago. At the time Paul, was 25 years old, and my girlfriend Tara was 23. She and I met at Shake Shack one afternoon while having lunch. She was there with her 4-year-old son Victor, and they were sitting 2 tables over from me. During the lunch, I looked up and I saw a young Victor walking over to my table with a toy fire truck. His mom was getting refills for drinks. Victor came over to me and put his truck up on the table and asked, "Do you like my fire truck?" I told him it was awesome and asked if he wanted to be a fireman someday. He said yes, if that. His mom was walking back to their table and noticed Victor at my table and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Victor, get over here." Victor said he was showing me his truck and wanted his mother to come over to the table. She again called to him to return to their table, but he didn't, so she came over and took him by the hand and said, "Victor, let this nice man eat his lunch in peace." I said, "Oh, that's no problem. He seems like a great kid." She said he is a wonderful boy, but often does things like this because his father is not in his life. Now that's a crazy thing for a mother in this case to say to a stranger, but obviously it looked like Kate. She spotted this was a nice guy and wanted to plant that seed that she was available, that they were available. I said, "Wow, that's terrible. I can tell he's a good kid," because that she gave me a big smile, told Victor to tell me goodbye and walk back to their table. As they walked back, I noticed that her body was very attractive. I don't like rating women, but I would give her face a 7 and her body an 8, maybe an 8.5. Additionally, she was very well spoken and seemed like a good mother. They look like 2 people who would fit perfectly into my life. So already this guy just sees her, talks to the little kid, and already he's imagining, hey, this could be my family, they're available. At the time, I hadn't dated anyone in a year and was basically working 60 to 70 hours a week to save money and to earn a promotion. As I got up to leave the restaurant, I planned on saying goodbye to them. But when Victor saw me walking towards the door, he said, "Where are you going?" "What's your name?" Because this, I smiled and walked over to their table, and I told him my name. He told me his, and his mother told me hers. I said it was really nice meeting both of you. With this, I asked his mother if she might be interested in having coffee with me sometime. She was surprised and said, "Sure, I'd like that." With this, we exchanged numbers and I left to go back to work. A couple of days went by and I was busy at work and nearly forgot about my encounter with Tara and Victor at Shake Shack. But on Thursday, I got a text from Tara stating, "Paul, I want to thank you for being so kind of my son. He is still talking about you. I look forward to hearing from you and having that coffee." I texted her back that evening, asked if she had any time this weekend to grab a coffee, and she said she was available Saturday morning as Victor was spending the morning with his grandparents. We set up a time and met at a nice little local coffee house in town. When she arrived, she looked great and we talked for over 2 hours, during which she told me how she met her ex and how she got pregnant. She went on to say, now listen to this folks because this is going to come back later in the story. She went on to say he wanted her, meaning the baby daddy, to abort the baby, but she wanted to have it. She claims he told her that if she did, he would not have any part in the child's life. She also went on to say that he works as a bartender, is a substance abuser, was physically abusive and mentally abusive to her, and has changed jobs numerous times. She also said that she basically has had little to no contact with him since she told him she was pregnant, which was over 4 years ago. So remember all of those things she just told this guy. They're all lies, folks, and you'll find out later in the story. Flash forward 60 days and our relationship blossomed. Tara and I quickly became passionate lovers, and Victor quickly became attached to me and I to him. The lease was up on their apartment, so I asked Tara and Victor to move into my apartment with me after dating for just 4 months. What a huge mistake. You don't know anything about this woman, and you're just basically going totally off of emotion. This is really acting almost like a woman would. Acting on emotions and not thinking logically. It's fine to have a strong bond with this kid, and a strong bond of course with this woman you're dating. But by no means should you be jumping into the pool with both feet at this time. Just after 4 months, this guy was crazy. The three of us went everywhere together. The zoo, the park, the children's museum, the science center, the planetarium, ball games, movie theaters, etc. We had become a happy family. Tara's parents also loved me and treated me like a son. They said I was like an angel who would come into Tara and Victor's lives and rescue them. Remember the old saying, you can't rescue and I'll leave that blank. You can fill in the blanks. I thought things were great. Tara and I got along terrifically, and our sex life was beyond fantastic. Tara did regularly initiated sex and gave me everything. I mean everything, and use your imagination there, guys. You know what that means. I don't think we missed a day and all of the time we worked together. She was on the pill. Now listen to this because this also comes back later. She was on the pill but also insisted that we use condoms for vaginal, oral, and anal sex. I was fine with this and chalked it up to her just not wanting to get pregnant again. Again, keep that in mind for later in this crazy story. This is my rude awakening, so things change here. Tara was working at a local company as an assistant. Her hours were standard 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., or so I thought, as she always arrived home at about 5:30, fixed dinner for the three of us, and then we would all spend the night together watching movies, playing games, or going out somewhere. This was always followed by a passionate love-making session, before we both fell asleep exhausted. It was a great routine, and it sounds like a great routine. One day at breakfast, Tara was stating that she had a discrepancy on her last paycheck, and had her past paycheck stubs out on the table, and was comparing them. She ran out of time and had to head out to work, put them in a pile on the table, and said she'd deal with this matter when she came home. That morning I wasn't scheduled to start work until 9:30 a.m., so I remained at the table drinking a second cup of coffee. After she left, I looked at her pay stubs to see if I might be able to find the error she had described. As I was looking at the stubs, I noticed Tara's hours were listed as part-time. Her work hours over the past 7 pay periods varied from 23 hours to 28 hours per week. I could see her hours work listed, and she always finished at either 2 p.m. or 2:30. This had me perplexed as she was leaving the house at 7:30 a.m. and not coming home until 5:30 p.m. So what the hell is she doing? We're going to find out. My mind immediately began wondering what was she doing with the other 12 to 15 hours per week that she was away from the house. I planned on discussing this with her, but instead decided to take the afternoon of the following day off and follow her after work. He's going to do a little PI work himself here. The next day I asked my boss for the afternoon off and he okayed it. I then went to Tara's office and parked across the street where you could not see my car, but I was in full view of Tara's car at about 2:05 p.m. Tara exited the building and got into her vehicle and drove off. I followed about a block behind. She pulled into a grocery store, and I pulled in the parking lot and waited for her to come out. I thought and rationalized to myself maybe she's just shopping and running family errands in the afternoon, and maybe I'm making too much of this. When Tara came out, I could see she had a bottle of wine wrapped up in a paper bag. She handed her car and proceeded out of the parking lot, and I followed again, remaining far and up behind where she couldn't see me. She turned down a side street in an area with a number of apartment buildings. I got the light and was unable to stay behind her. I thought I had lost her, but continued circling the streets in the area to see if I could spot her car. I finally did, and it was parked outside of a ranch-style apartment. There were 2 cars in front of this unit, Tara's car and an old model Jeep Wrangler. It was now about 3 p.m. I knew immediately she was cheating on me, but I was completely baffled based on our super active sex life and how happy the three of us seemed to be. I mean, this woman, as you're going to find out, totally had this guy snowed. He was totally in the dark, and I can understand why. There were really not many red flags that she dropped. She was giving him fantastic sex. She was cooking. She was cleaning. She was being a great girlfriend. They were acting as a family. He really didn't suspect anything. She was talking shit on her baby daddy, and you'll find out that the baby daddy plays a big role here in what we're going to hear coming up. I parked in an area across the lot where I could clearly see the front door of the unit, but you couldn't clearly see my car as there were cars parked all around me. At about 4:35 p.m., Tara exited the apartment and got in her car, started it, and began backing out. Just then a guy runs out of the apartment shirtless and in his bare feet carrying something. He hands it to her and they speak a few words, and listen to this now. He leans in and gives her a long, passionate kiss on the lips. I was sickened, crushed, and totally shocked. I couldn't believe my eyes. I mean, just unfathomable when you think about it. I mean, how this guy had to feel. There were no red flags and things between us could not have been any better. This goes to show you guys. You got to act on red flags, but sometimes these women are so good at hiding affairs that you may be totally unsuspecting. You may think, hey, I've got every hour of the day that she's up accounted for. And you may have thought like this guy did that he did have every hour accounted for. But you're finding now that hey, she's been lying about her work schedule and has been using a couple hours per day just to have an affair with someone. I drove to a local park to take a walk and clear my mind to process what I just saw. I felt every emotion from sadness to complete rage and anger. I then sat on a park bench and started Googling that address. I see that a guy named Frank is shown as a resident of this location for the past 5 years. It just so happens that Frank is the name of Tara's ex and the father of her son, Victor. She never revealed much about him other than he knocked her up and abandoned her and her child, but during one conversation she let it slip that his name was Frank. That evening I came home. Tara greeted me like she had every night. She had a beautiful meal prepared and Victor was at the table waiting for me to sit down. It was difficult, but I acted as if everything was normal. We had dinner and I spent most of my time talking to Victor. That evening, Victor and I played games the entire night until it was time for bed. When Tara came into the bedroom, she attempted to initiate sex with me as she had done every night we'd been together, but I told her I was tired. I laughed and said that Victor wiped me out playing video games all night, and I was just going to crash. She seemed a little puzzled and concerned, but went along with it and spooned up to me and went to sleep. This is the first time he's ever rejected her, so that threw her a little curve there. I don't know if she was onto something there. Maybe suspecting this guy might be getting wise to me, or maybe she just wrote it off, and I think the latter, she probably just wrote it off. I didn't want to touch or sleep in the same bed with her, but I knew if I didn't she would really get suspicious, so this guy had to stick it out. During the night, I snuck out of bed and took her phone to see if I could discern any clues. She had recently removed the screensaver function, as she hated that she constantly had to enter her password as her facial recognition wasn't working properly. Looking at her text, I initially didn't see anything suspicious. Just a bunch of text to me and her mother. But looking closer, I saw there was a mom and a mom one. I looked at the mom one text and quickly realized these were texts between Tara and Frank. I spent the next 45 minutes reading texts and taking photos of them. Throughout the conversations, they were referring to me as he and him were terror, stating, now listen to this, I mean just the total disrespect for this guy. He doesn't suspect a thing. He's a good dad to our son. These are two ruthless, terrible people, this Tara and this Frank. I always make him wear protection and reserve my body for you, she's telling this Frank. So basically, she's making this guy, the OP here, wear protection, and then she goes raw with this Frank. She says here, I love you, Frank, but I need him. Why does she need him? She needs him for the resources, of course. I was completely crushed and broke down crying, feeling like a total fool that I allowed this woman to use me. I then walked over to Tara's keys. This was a smart movie makes here, and removed the key from my apartment from her key ring. In the morning, I gave Tara a quick kiss, and gave Victor a big hug and kiss as I thought it may be the last time I got to see him. I then developed a plan to confront her but wanted to have witnesses, so I planned to go to her parents' house on Friday afternoon, present them with the evidence of her ongoing affair with Frank, and drop off her and Victor's belongings. Her parents have been babysitting Victor ever since Tara started working 3 years ago. It was 2 years ago when she claimed to be full-time, which was a lie. So that really is probably when she started this affair with this Frank, the baby daddy. So you know she's been doing this now for 2 years before she met the original poster here, and of course she continued it after. She used these hours to hook up with Frank behind her parents and Victor's back. After meeting with her parents, I would then send her a text stating I knew about her ongoing affair with Frank, and that our relationship was over. I took the afternoon off, went over to her parents and advised them I need to speak with them privately, and asked if they could take Victor to Tara's sister's home down the street for a couple of hours. I then showed them the text and advised that Tara has been having an ongoing relationship with Frank, the father of Victor, for the past 2+ years. They were shocked, very apologetic, and couldn't believe it. They said he is a complete lowlife, a total bum who abandoned his baby, and she's sleeping with this man. I told them I would be immediately ending my relationship with Tara after leaving their home. Her mom asked if I would reconsider and give her another chance. That's crazy for her mom to ask that, but she was probably just going through the emotions here because she didn't want to give up this good guy and this family unit now he had created. I told her that was not possible based on how I've been used and reminded her that she was at Frank's house right now doing God knows what. She understood and said, "How could she do such a thing? I can't believe it." That's what her mother said. As soon as I got to my car, I sent a breakup text to Tara. Within 5 minutes, she started calling me. I turned off my phone for the next 2 hours. I then turned on my phone and listened to the messages and read all the text. The general gist was, "Let me explain." "What are you going to explain?" "How can you explain this?" followed by, "Please let me see you one more time." Then, "I love you so much I can't live without you." Then of course that doesn't work. He's not calling her back. Then she goes for the guilt phase here and trying to make him look bad. She's saying here now, "I made a terrible mistake. Please give me another chance." Then finally this is where she resorts to the shame, guilt, and gaslighting, saying, "Don't abandon Victor." She's using this poor young boy who was abandoned by his father. She's using him now as a tool basically to try to shame this guy. Saying, "Don't abandon poor Victor. He loves you like a father. You are his daddy." I completely ghosted her and blocked her number on all social media. That's what you should do, guys. Cut off all conversations with these people. What they're going to try to do, what these women are going to try to do, they're going to try to wear you down, they're going to try to talk to you, they're going to beg, they're going to cry, they're going to promise you the world, they're going to do everything for you, they're going to throw their bodies at you, they're going to let you do anything to them, and it's going to be very tempting, but don't do it. Cut them off. I got a hotel room at a home, Wood Suites in a nearby town, for the next 2 weeks, as I knew she would stalk me at my apartment. Not hearing from me or seeing me drove her crazy, and though her parents took her in, they spoke little to her as they were thoroughly disgusted and ashamed. Throughout the next 2 weeks, I kept getting calls from various numbers but no messages. I knew it was Tara using other people's phones. About a week after our breakup, I got a call from Tara's dad, and he asked if he and Victor could meet me, as Victor was really sad and depressed and wasn't sure what was going on. We met at a nice ice cream shop, and Victor ran up to me and hugged me tight. He asked when he could come home, and that really broke my heart. I can imagine, getting attached to this little kid. He was the one who really reached out to you from the beginning, knowing his story. You got really attached to him. You're acting basically like a dad to this guy. For the first time, he's had a father figure, and boom, this happens to him where he's just abandoned. I explained to him that Mommy and I no longer loved each other, and that he and Mommy would be living with his pappy and Nana for a little bit. He looked very sad and was about to cry, so I quickly said, "You and me are still going to be best friends, right?" He said yes and gave me a big hug. I said, "You can call me anytime, and me and Pappy can still go fishing, go to the arcade and other places whenever we want to as buddies." Fast forward 4 years, and Victor and his pappy Jose and I are best pals. So the kid's now probably around 8 years old. We hang out at least once a week doing something together as buddies, sometimes just watching TV, and Victor and I talk on the phone a couple of times a week. Tragically, now listen to this. What a horrible person this mother is. This Tara, and of course her baby daddy Frank. These are two of the worst despicable people I think, probably walking the earth. Tara ran off with Frank 2 months after our breakup and abandoned Victor. Her parents now have full custody of him, and they have cut all ties with her. Victor was heartbroken at first, but Jose, his wife, his aunt, uncle, and cousins, and I filled a void, and now he doesn't ask about his mother. That poor kid, totally being abandoned by his parents. Just disgusting, just terribly disgusting. Thank God he's got good grandparents, and he's got a good guy here that is going to befriend him, for years to come. It is believed Tara and Frank are living somewhere in Florida, working at a bar together. Whereas gotten back, they are in an abusive relationship. Surprise, surprise, both from substance abuse and a physical abuse standpoint. I really don't care about Tara and Frank, as they are human garbage. You nailed it right there, guy. These two people I would definitely classify as human scum, human garbage. That's the only way you can describe them. I only care about Victor and plan to remain in his life as a best friend forever. That's great. He's really great what this guy is doing, and there's no reason why he can't remain in his life and be, his best friend forever. I think that's wonderful. I'm now dating a great girl. I got a nice promotion at work and have a wonderful relationship with Victor and Jose. Life is very good. I'd still like to have a wife and family someday, but I'm taking things very slowly. That's my story. So that was a really good story, a very long one, but man, you can see this as the extreme of what you can expect if you get involved with a single mother. Again, this is an extreme case, probably one of the worst to ever hear, but I thought it would be appropriate for this topic to cover it. Now let's go into the lessons learned and finish up here. Number 1, don't rush into a committed relationship with really not getting to know the other person. You've got to make sure you thoroughly know the other person before you jump in with both feet, whether it's a single mom or a single woman. It doesn't matter. As you saw with this guy, he fell head over heels. Once he got a taste of that vagina, he wanted that steady vagina, and after 4 months, he invited this woman and her child to move into his apartment. Big mistake, a huge mistake. Watch out for the red flags and take action. There were some red flags here, but they were very subtle ones, so I really can't fault him, and she really did an unbelievable job covering for it. Basically having sex with both him and this Frank at the same time, and making him wear protection and kind of guising it as well. I don't want to get pregnant, so it was really difficult for this guy to really spot, hey, something was going on. But watch for the red flags, be careful dating single mothers, this is a big caution. Are there some good ones out there? Yeah, there probably are, but I haven't really seen too many of them. When I say too many of them, ones that are just not looking for someone to be a resource. Sometimes you do find situations where a guy marries a single mother, and it's really a passionate love relationship, and they go on to live happily ever after. But I haven't seen a lot of those kind of situations. I do know some. There will be a white knight. Some women like this Tara are unsalvageable. Many of them are unsalvageable. Don't think you can come in and rescue their lives. They have to take care of themselves. Then you can get with them once they straighten out their lives, but don't think you can come in and change them. Always protect yourself physically, mentally, and financially when you're in a relationship. Especially with condoms and dental dams. Mentally knowing that at any time this relationship can go left to the center. This woman could do something crazy and I could be brokenhearted, and financially making sure you don't tie up your financial resources or risk your financial well-being for this woman. So a lot of good lessons learned here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you've got any comments about how this guy handled it, or if you know any other situations where you've heard crazy stories about single moms, put those down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. So that's it for this week's video, and I'll talk with you on the next one.